unsuccessful attempt to assassinate Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu a couple of weeks ago. Unsuccessful, because but not that far. Like he wasn't home, and a drone did hit his home. Um, it's still in people's minds on both sides of this war. So Israel, a few days ago, some Israeli officials said that a response uh, could be coming against Iran on Iranian soil for that, and mentioned that what we've seen from Israel on Iranian soil last week wasn't didn't include the response to the attempt at assassinating the prime minister. The new leader of Hezbollah, whose name I forgot, and I should memorize it quickly, probably.
We have a whole new list of names to remember now, Razi. Leadership
Naim Qassem, thank you,
personnel has
Daniel.
changed.
Naim Qassem, the new leader of Hezbollah, said, well, that attempt was unsuccessful, but future attempts we'll see. And I'm really tempted to joke about that and say, look, are you serious? Like all your leadership is gone. You're
Yeah.
some dude they picked up off the street and is now the leader of Hezbollah. And if anybody is probably not going to last long, it's probably you. But I think such threats should be taken seriously, seriously enough that, hey, if Israel didn't already have plans to get rid of Naim Qassem, which I'm sure they do, they absolutely should now. And of course, look seriously into retaliating against Iran. Look, Israel should get rid of the Iranian regime, but it unfortunately is not operating based on what we advise on this show, and we know that's not going to happen anytime soon. But some sort of response would be good, especially if it shows that Israel can not just take out the leaders of Hezbollah and Hamas, but also the leaders of the evil Iranian regime that is the cause of this war. Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm joined by James Valliant. James, your thoughts on this assassination attempt and the possible ramifications of it?
Well, first of all, the assassination attempt on Netanyahu is outrageous. It is an extraordinary act of war. And look, it is a good thing. It is a definite mitzvah that Mr. and Mrs. Netanyahu were not home at the time. But that kind of luck we can't rely on, can we? And when you're threatening the leadership in that way, it does call for a separate retaliatory response. So I'm hoping, very much hoping, that you're right, that what Israel is signaling right now is that we are going to continue, keep it up, and maybe on the leadership, like you indicated, the appropriate and just response, even in this weird. Of course, they should take out the whole regime. They shouldn't put targets off limits. But on the other hand, it seems perfectly rational, even in this limited context of moral thinking, seems perfectly rational, since they're going straight after the prime minister of Israel, to go straight after the leadership in Tehran. And I hope that's what they have in mind. Now, this new creep, who is the new coming out of job opportunities at Hezbollah in Lebanon, no question about it. And of course, he's already got, I hope, a target right on his back like the other Hezbollah leaders. But that's insufficient in itself, really, honestly. Hezbollah still has thousands of missiles and thousands of supporters in Lebanon. We have not taken care of, not even as effectively as we've taken care of Hamas in the south, we have not taken care of the Hezbollah problem anywhere near sufficiently to secure the safety of Israelis and civilized people in the area in general. So, boy, I hope you're right. I hope that Israel has a separate attack in mind because of the attempt on Netanyahu's life. I'm just glad that the Netanyahus were not home at the time. It deserves a separate response. And God knows the leadership of Tehran is precisely what we need to go for, as well as the newly minted leadership of Hezbollah.
Yeah, I love it when you use Hebrew words, even when you use them incorrectly. Mitzvah is not the right word there, but mitzvah is an act that somebody takes rather than
Uh,
luck.
A lot. Well, something that
Yes.
didn't happen. You're
But
right.
look, this war,
But
this
look,
war.
when a hurricane doesn't happen, I'm looking at it as positively as I can. No, it's not good weather, but at least it's not the bad weather that we could have had.
Yeah, but look, this war unfortunately is being drawn out enough that I'm sure you'll be fluent in Hebrew by the time it's over.
Finally, have learned Hebrew, which I
I'm
do
sure.
not know, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know a lick of Arabic or Hebrew. So, unlike some other languages, but Hebrew and Arabic, I do not know a lick of.
Um, Thank you, Bull for the super chat. Bull says Naeem's first job as Secretary General, appoint a successor. Yes, maybe multiple successors, maybe a whole line
Multiple
of successors.
successes. Great.
Thank you. Yeah. So thank you, Bull Moose. Victoria says asks why don't the West hold Iran to account? Well, on that point, here's a very recent, like last couple of hours, headline from an Israeli news website, Ynet, that Biden is sending envoys to the Middle East, and the goal of the trip is a ceasefire, a triple ceasefire in Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran. So yeah, the idea is, by the way, they're going to Israel. They're not going to Lebanon to talk to Hezbollah and see if they will decide maybe they don't want to exterminate the Jews. They're not going to Hamas to see if maybe they are no longer going to try to exterminate the Jews. And they're not talking to Iran, who is behind all of this. As they are talking to Israel and seeing if they can get Israel to back off, essentially. And again, we say this every day, and we'll keep saying it every day. Israel backing off. There could be a ceasefire if Israel just backs off. There could be a pause in hostilities. I'm sure Hezbollah and Hamas would absolutely agree to stop firing rockets at the moment, and for as long as it takes them to regroup and to come back stronger in their only goal of exterminating the Jews. James.
Yeah. Well, to answer the questioner asked the 64. We should have game show reference that maybe a little young people won't get. The $64 question, the game show reference to the old days. The $64 question is exactly that, questioner. Why doesn't the West? Why don't civilized countries? Why doesn't the rest of the world hold the evil, murderous regime in Iran finally responsible for all of their acts of murder through, then this is the bizarre excuse. Because Iran is working through proxies to shut down, say, international shipping in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, that means Iran's not responsible. No, Iran is disrupting international trade through the Red Sea. It's Iran doing it. It's not just the Houthis, it's Iran. Similarly, the Hezbollah affiliates in Syria and Iraq who've been attacking American bases and killing even Americans. That is Iran as well. Iran is murdering Americans. Now you look at October 7th, all of those hostages taken, all of those people taken, that is Iran. Now, when was the West going to get into their head that the people shutting down international trade, killing Jews whenever they can, bombing American bases through their affiliates, that's Iran. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They are on the verge of getting a nuclear weapon. Multiple nuclear weapons. And I want you to remember the craters that they left in their missile attack, maybe the biggest ballistic missile attack in all of the history of ballistic missiles. In their ballistic missile attack directly from Iran onto Israel, left craters in Israel. Now imagine, I've said this 2 or 3 times already, I'm going to say it again. Imagine that missile had a nuclear warhead on it, even a crude one. If they could get a nuke into New York or London, you better believe they would do so in a heartbeat. These people are a threat to civilization. They're a threat to everything good in this world. And so you ask the key question here: when will civilized nations realize that they have to do something to neutralize the threat from these monsters in Iran, one of the most savage regimes, maybe the most savage government on the planet today? You ask the key question for me. Absolutely.
And
will the West wake up?
the really sad state of affairs here is we talk about this ballistic missile attack. It didn't need to have, none of them needed to have a nuclear warhead. But a few of them hitting buildings and a couple of thousand people dying, which is a possibility when you have so many ballistic missiles fired at your country, at a civilian population, would have gotten a different, again, the same exact action by Iran would have gotten a very different response from Israel, a response that may have taken down the Iranian regime. We talk about Israel's not going to take out the Iranian regime over the failed attempt at assassinating Netanyahu. I don't know what a successful attempt would cause. Again, we talk about Netanyahu being a coward, but it's not like anybody who might replace him is is that much better. So yeah, why is Israel waiting? And Iran is now promising to retaliate for Israel's retaliation. And this is another situation where we know if it's coming, Israel will do a bit more next time, maybe not enough, depending on how successful it is, depending on where those ballistic missiles fall or whatever it is that they shoot, where it hits. Why is Israel waiting for mass death on its side? It already got it. It got it on October 7th last year. Is that not enough of a lesson?
Absolutely. No, the threat itself, just the threat. Iran saying we will retaliate for this, just the saying so after they have launched two direct attacks on Israel. Now every word that comes out of their mouth saying we will attack you for this, respond to that, that in itself is an aggressive attack. The statement itself that Iran is making justifies further attacks. And look, America is going to tie Israel's hands as best they can. Well, don't hit the nuclear programs facilities and don't hit the oil facilities. We don't want to take out their nuclear program. We don't want to hurt their economy. What? That's absolutely insane. Even if Israel can't alone, doesn't want to take on Iran, surely, Mr. Biden, we should destroy the economy that helped fund and finance October 7th and all of the evil activities of Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas combined. I mean, this is insanity, ladies and gentlemen. And look, the key is to go after the top leadership in Iran as well. It is the Ayatollah. It is the mullahs. It is the government in Tehran that must be targeted. And if people don't see that, I'm sorry, they're living in another dimension as far as I'm concerned. It's not a reality that cares about the lives of human beings, bringing this perpetual war to an end at some point, reasonable in the future. No, it's the only, ladies and gentlemen, the only way we're going to get peace is if we put a final end to jihadist maniacs, and they are mostly funded by this evil regime in Iran. When are we going to get it through our heads? I don't know. 40 years ago, 1983, 1985, they were killing hundreds of Iranian-backed, a newly formed Iranian-backed organization called Hezbollah, killed hundreds of Americans and French soldiers in Beirut. That was 40 years ago. How many acts of war do we have to endure from Iran and its chief puppet, Hezbollah, before we realize they must be utterly destroyed?
Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Yes, we will address it at the end. That's going to be interesting. Thank you, Roland, for the super chat. Roland says, paying my tuition for the Hebrew lessons. Yes, we offer many services here in the Ayn Rand community. Christian asks, when is Leonard Peikoff going to be on? That interview by James Valliant with Leonard Peikoff that we recorded that a couple of days ago. It will premiere tonight at 11 p.m. UK time on the channel. And then from tomorrow until and including election day, we will have a new video of a different person each day asking Peikoff a question about the election or about his essay. Also, all of those have been recorded already, and we have many of the familiar faces from the channel in those interviews, including Jonathan Hoenig, including Michael Kaufman, Marco and Richard, Adam Mossoff, Michael Leibowitz. Who am I? Am I forgetting a couple of people? Am I forgetting somebody? I think I am.
No, but we had several good questions.
Yeah, we had Jim Brown, of course.
Jim Brown, of course.
Yeah, I think that's the longest video is with Jim Brown, and Yeah, so make
They
sure,
had a
again,
great
all of
conversation.
those videos are members only. So you have to be either a member through the website, and then you will have access on the website. It's not going to be an unlisted video. You will have to actually be a member, or YouTube
Ladies and
members. There will
gentlemen,
be
this is
a
just
YouTube members only version of it.
ladies and gentlemen, this is just another reason to becoming a member and a subscriber to Ayn Rand Center UK. You get all kinds of stuff, and we're the channel that platforms Dr. Leonard Peikoff on this, whether you agree or disagree with him. And Dr. Peikoff
Well,
agrees.
you know
Debatable.
what? Since you said that, we may as well read Jonathan's super chat now.
Okay.
Jonathan asks, could you address at the end, and we're going to address now. Must students of objectivism agree with Dr. Peikoff's presidential endorsement? Is one still an objectivist if he or she disagrees?
I have a
I
very
think my
simple
view
answer.
is well known, but James.
There's a very simple answer that comes from objectivism. Uh, a vote for president is not something that objectivism will tell you. It will give you the principles by which to think about it. So who you vote for isn't if you don't vote at all, there were times when Miss Rand did not vote at all. And there was a time when she said, I'm an anti-Nixonite for voting this time because I think McGovern's so dangerous. Okay, so that is an application of objectivism. It is an application of objectivism. And Miss Rand has not been with us for 42 years. And so, yeah, objectivists can reasonably disagree within certain limits, I think. You can't, for example, come out in an unqualified way for either candidate in a totally unqualified way. I don't think that's consistent with objectivism. So there are limits to this. But
Yeah, and
within those limits, who you vote for doesn't determine whether you're an objectivist. It's how you think about who you're voting for.
yeah,
That's what
and again,
objectivism.
like even as application of the principles goes, this is not, if this was Barry Goldwater against Jill Stein,
Well,
that's
yeah,
yeah, there are issues.
yeah.
If somebody said, look, the way I apply objectivist principles, I come to the conclusion that I should support the Palestinian resistance in their armed struggle against Israel, that is quite the stretch. So
And personally, if you were to ask me, a Harris vote is like that. Okay, so that's why I couldn't vote for Harris no matter what, and I've always had that opinion. But the point is, within certain limits, and you do bring up a very good point. It has to be within certain limits. Objectivism would clearly say, as you pointed out, it was Barry Goldwater versus Jill Stein. Yes, objectivist. The answer there is a no-brainer, and that's an easy case of that. But there are cases of application which aren't so easy. And in that realm of disagreement, that's application, ladies and gentlemen. I would urge you to check out Leonard Peikoff's own work, Understanding Objectivism. And in Understanding Objectivism, he discusses the difference between philosophical principles and their specific applications. And I think that's one of the best sources on this very question.
yeah, and within those areas where we can disagree, I will disagree with you. I think people, I would not vote for Harris. I can't imagine, it's difficult to imagine why somebody would. But on the other hand, the more I focus on either one of these candidates, the more inclined I am to support the other. Yeah, as I said, I would not vote, but I'm terrified for Israel if Harris wins. I'm terrified for Ukraine if Trump wins, and I'm terrified for America either way. But so let's go back to something nicer like Iran.
How pleasant it
Uh,
is American politics to Iran.
And
Uh,
actually, it is connected because look, I started with Biden has sent people to Israel to get a ceasefire. Every time Biden or Harris talk about this, they talk about a ceasefire. Trump alternates between saying that Israel should win and depending on who he's talking to. But yeah, within the context, I asked Adam Mossoff yesterday, within the context of this actually, let me ask you exactly the same question. Let's say Trump wins. There are 2.5 months of Biden being president and Trump being president-elect. And we know historically lame duck presidents like to leave as bad a situation as possible for their successor from the other party. Like that's how it goes, unfortunately. Which is also tells you something about what politicians think about their role and about the people they supposedly serve. Um, what can we expect in terms of Middle East policy from Biden if Trump is elected?
2 months at least of living hell for Israel. I think that's the only way of looking at it. I think that, on the other hand, Israel will at least be able to wait and ignore Washington. And I don't think there's anything permanent in those 2 weeks that Biden can probably do. I mean, anything where he puts a ban, say, on certain weapons or something, or sanctions on Israel for a certain kind, those couldn't get through Congress. And anything he puts on personally can be undone pretty quickly. So while it'll be 2.5 months of hell for Israel, hold your breath, bide your time, try and be patient for the next several weeks. If Trump gets in, I think he will be. I think quite obvious he'd be significantly better on the Israel question, and it is one of my major concerns. Frankly, I think that the most important thing in the world today is the destruction of the evil Iranian regime. I think that's been an urgent question for the better part of 50 years now. But on that is the Israel question. Trump would be better. Look, Trump himself has a hit out on him. His Secretary of State from Iran. Iran has been hacking into Trump's campaign. Even Trump is not going to be personally favorably disposed towards Iran for all kinds of reasons when he comes in. And on that issue, I'm pretty confident. At least he'll be better. No, he won't do what needs to be done, take out the regime in Iran. That certainly won't be his stated policy. And he will negotiate with dictators. On the other hand, I think he would at least permit Israel a broader latitude. I mean, when Trump says, look, if you threaten America, if it was under my administration when he threatened Americans, we would, quote, blow them to smithereens, which I think is a much healthier kind of response to Iranian threats. Yes.
Yes, and I do hope people remind him of that if he is in the White House. Remember your election promise, blow them to smithereens. Reminds me of the South Park thing that I'm not going to repeat
Yes.
here, but
There are still Americans held hostage. There have been Americans who were taken hostage and killed on October 7th. And if Trump is consistent with what he said, if you threaten Americans under my administration, Iran, I will blow you to smithereens. If he does get elected, let's hold Trump to that promise. But at least he said something like that. The other side, it was
by the way,
Israel will be the evil ones here, and they'll be the genocide ones here. And you can guarantee a change in policy under Harris that is for the worse, it seems to me.
oh yeah, and Bernie Sanders already guaranteed it on behalf of Harris. Alex says in the chat, in answer to my question, what can we expect in those 2.5 months? They will go to the Security Council. We can expect another Security Council resolution like the one Obama did to about Jerusalem, and more sanctions. Yes, unfortunately, I think Alex is right. This is going to be look. The time period between now and January 20th is going to be bad for Israel anyway. And again, it might get better on January 20th. It might get worse for Israel. And the same is true for others, depending on who
Well,
wins.
but something, the UN, again, remember, it was Trump who got America out of UNRWA long before October 7th. I mean, one thing we do have to say about Trump and Israel, he ended U.S. support for UNRWA. So whatever happens in the UN with Biden, in effect, the practical policy from Washington, D.C., at least, we can at least hope and have reasonable expectation will be at least better.
Yeah, yeah, and there were other positive policies by Trump regarding Israel, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, and I think even that's the one that people remember. I think more important than that was
So,
recognizing the Golan Heights as part of Israel, because yeah, the Golan Heights, if Israel, you know, if Israel finally starts believing its enemies, then the Golan Heights have to stay, for security reasons, have to stay Israel's forever. Thank you, Bull Moose, for another super chat. Bull Moose says, Naim, that is, just to remind people, that is the new Nasrallah. Naim declared that he will, quote, continue Nasrallah's path. Let us hope that proves true. Yes, look, I don't know if this guy, if we hear tomorrow that he's no longer with us, if he's gonna earn a special episode like we did for Nasrallah, it's morning or early morning episode, and then an extra long TDO in the evening, because yeah, he hasn't earned that yet, but hopefully he never will, and hopefully he'll still get an episode when he is.
Remember that monster Nasrallah was in charge of Hezbollah since 1992, more than 30 years of his monstrous management of that evil organization that killed so many people. I mean, from various countries. I mean, when he took over control, he reached around the world to Buenos Aires to kill Jews. If you will recall, in the 1990s, that man wanted to kill Jews anywhere in the world he could find them. And he killed Americans and French and all kinds of other people too. This guy won't have the resume of murder that Nasrallah surely developed in the course of 30 some years. So.
Thank you, Alex, for the super chat. Alex asked, why would Biden embargo mid-air refueling tankers? If concern for the Palestinians is the reason for the embargo, why embargo that? They are protecting Iran. Yes, if President Biden would like to join us on the air and answer that question,
President Biden is pro-Iran. He wants to preserve not only Iran, but their nuclear program, which threatens Israel and every other civilized country. Now, go figure that out. He wants to protect their trade relations with China. So he's protecting both the evil regime in China and he's protecting Iran, specifically Iran's leadership, their economy, and their nuclear program. There is no question that in many ways across the board, Mr. Biden is a pro-Ayatollah guy. He wants, and Harris would immediately, of course, start renegotiating with them, some deal because of that. No, they want to negotiate with them. They want them to be protected. They want that regime to be permanently ensconced in the area, threatening Americans and Jews for the rest of my life, Razi's life. No, no, no. The Biden administration is quite evil in this regard. They are protecting Iran, that evil regime. There's no other way of looking at it.
Yeah, and when it comes to the threat of Russia, as I said, I think Harris, I would say she's less bad on this, but let's not forget that they're not good. The Biden administration isn't doing what should be done. It might do something better than what Trump is suggesting, which is pressure Ukraine to capitulate the way Biden is pressuring Israel to capitulate, but they are not they're not supporting Ukraine fully, and it'll be interesting to see what we hear from the Biden administration about what is going on in Georgia with the recent elections. That is the topic of today's episode of the reality show, and we have two panelists from Georgia, first-time panelists on that show. Thank you, James. Thanks everybody for watching. Make sure you tune in to our episode about Georgia coming up in a couple of minutes. And tonight, 11 p.m. UK time. That is 7 p.m. Eastern at the moment because we are daylight savings. James Valliant interviews Leonard Peikoff. And then from tomorrow, I don't know the order yet of the questions that we're going to post from tomorrow onwards, but every day a new video with Leonard Peikoff.
Only for members, but only for members, people.
For members, YouTube members, every level. This is not, you don't need to be a 500-pound, although it's great if you want to be a 500-pound a month member.
You better go hit that button, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see that other material.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's great stuff, and I urge people to do that. So
and of course, with your membership, you get not just those videos, but hours of additional content every week, including James Valliant's study group on Leonard Peikoff's courses, which is now on the course Introduction to Logic. So make sure you tune into that. Thanks again, James. And the reality show starts in a couple of minutes.
Be safe.